1974, The Hollies and the Air That I Breathe. Do you remember that song? Well, I can't vouch for the air quality in the 1970s, but certainly lockdown is now giving Brits a glimpse of life with less pollution. And it's also led to the launch of a campaign to put air quality on the map. You're listening to Heather Hilda Darling on Let's Talk Property, Radio Reverb 97.2 FM and DAB. The programme is sponsored by Callaway's Estate Agents, and I have some wonderful guests joining me in the studio today. So let's head over there straight away, and I'm going to say hello to Victoria Pendleton, former Olympic, world and European champion turned jockey, and Clare Nasir, meteorologist, author and broadcaster. But before we do that, let me just put a couple of things your way. 62% of Brits claim they miss how clean the air was during the first national lockdown, and a quarter are concerned over the impact of air pollution on their health. There are some simple things we can do in the home, for example, turning the lights off and using less cars. Actually, buying more local as well. Let's find out about why air pollution is an invisible threat to so many, and also about E.ON's Change the Weather Service. This is a really interesting subject that we're tackling today, putting air quality on the map, and I'm sure this is music to both of your ears. Claire, can you tell us a little bit about the research from E.ON?
Yeah, so I'm helping sort of roll out this campaign with E.ON called Change the Weather Service. And it says what it does on the tin, basically. It's a way of providing data in a simplified way to the media so we can communicate as efficiently and as clearly as possible what the quality of the air is outside on a particular day, so people can make informed decisions. And this research, which is basically based around what this campaign is all about, is just so insightful. It really is, and I'm really pleased it's been done. So 86% of people asked, that's 4,000 people in this survey, believe air pollution is something that the general public should know more about. And if you think about it, it affects millions of people across the UK. 1 in 20 people die in the UK because of poor air quality. And so the statistics actually speak volumes for what we all are thinking right now. So people are impacted with air pollution in so many different ways. But in fact, many of us have a sort of a direct influence or have been affected by air pollution, whether it's our families or ourselves. And that really is where I come from. I've been working on air pollution campaigning for about 10 years now because I had a premature baby and I noticed an incessant cough when we stepped out every time, and we lived in central London. So this survey is really important because we can act on it and do something about it so we can add value to people's lives, particularly when it comes to air pollution in towns and cities.
Do you find it a little bit ironic that a lot of this has come to the forefront due to lockdown 1 and now lockdown 2 as well? Obviously we were all outside. There were very few cars, very few aeroplanes flying over. And it seems a little bit that whilst lockdown has been a terrible thing, something good is coming out of it with the quality of the air around us.
I absolutely agree, Heather. I think it's interesting, but if you think about it, the first lockdown, the quality of the air has been better than it has since probably post-war Britain. And in fact, over the last 100 years or so, because we are an industrial nation, we've been breathing in dirty air for a long, long time. So it was a real contrast where we stepped outside during lockdown. The air was clear. The sunshine was out as well, which was an added bonus, considering how much uncertainty was. And that's the key thing. Now, normally when I forecast the weather and it's high pressure or settled conditions, that really is it enables these dirty pollutants to be trapped in the lower atmosphere. And that's when we breathe them in. So there's always a bit of a downside to that quiet weather, which is what we like to celebrate. We like dry, fine conditions with some sunshine. And, this time we had both and it was brilliant. So I think people now will remember that. That will be one of the things that we will remember. We want to go back to those times in terms of environment rather than anything else.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, Victoria, if I can turn to you, obviously as an athlete, how does air quality affect your lung capacity, etc., and how you're able to train and get outside and do all the things you have to do?
Well, throughout my career, I've trained in some of the most polluted cities in the world. So I've experienced what really bad air quality can feel like. And it definitely has an impact on how you can perform. But it's an invisible threat and it affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate whether you're an athlete training or whether you're just taking a walk down the street, for example, on your daily commute. So it's something that, because we can't see it and we're not very aware of it, we don't really understand the damage it's doing to our bodies and the impact it can have. It's definitely unpleasant, that's for sure. And that's why the Change the Weather Service, providing the information on the weather report, can give people the opportunity to decide whether they're going to train today or whether it's a good idea to go out and take a walk. If they do suffer from any respiratory issues, for example. So it's kind of just providing more information so we can make informed decisions. And I think there's no harm in that at all.
No, absolutely. And you referred there to the weather forecasting. Clearly in the summertime, we generally get the pollen count, don't we? And I suppose those of us that don't suffer from hay fever just sort of cast it aside. But actually, knowing what the air quality is like is a really great way forward. Would you agree with that, Claire?
I absolutely would. And I think it's something which doesn't take long to tell people, but it can have a huge impact, good positive impact on daily lives. And it's everybody who's affected by air pollution. It's not just the vulnerable, those who have underlying health conditions or the very young. I like to run along a street. And in fact, before I learnt more about air pollution many years ago, I would do that along a busy street, say central. I used to live in Brighton, actually. And, running into central Brighton, there's so much congestion on some days. And I didn't know how much toxicity I was actually inhaling into my body, and it has a long-term effect. So this is a really good way that you can check the air pollution count in the morning and go, right, maybe it's not a good day to go for a run. Maybe it's not a good day to push my child down a busy street because air pollution is going to be trapped in those lower layers and we're going to be breathing it in.
No, you're absolutely right. Victoria, if I could just turn to you again. Obviously, we can all help, can't we, by doing really quite small things in the house. And when I was a wee child, actually, I grew up in Manchester, and I think that's where they first identified acid rain back in 1852. So this really isn't something new. I always remember my grandma, for example, for goodness sake, Heather, turn the lights off. I mean, we can do simple things. Do you have some examples of what we could do at home, Victoria, just to make the air quality better for all of us in the long run?
Well, your mum was exactly right with switching the lights off. We should definitely still be doing that if we're not using them. It's about being as efficient at home as you can and conserving energy wherever possible. I mean, maybe looking into renewable alternatives, and some energy suppliers can provide 100% renewable sources, but also things like solar panels, heat pumps, things like that. Smart meters can also help because it gives you a good idea of the energy you're using, and therefore it might inspire you to be a little bit more conscious. It will also save money on your bills, which is, I think, everyone will appreciate. But also, the other things that would really help with improving the air quality are just making small journeys by foot or by bicycle. And I'm always encouraging people to get on their bikes. But if you can use local amenities and local shops and services as an alternative, it's not only going to improve the air quality for not using those short journeys in a vehicle, but also it's good for your physical health, it's good for your mental health, and you're supporting your local economy, which is also, I think, something that we're very aware of in these difficult times. So there's so many things we can do, and if you want more information, just type on E.ON Clean Air into your search engine and there'll be all the data you need.
Fantastic. Well, actually, we're doing our own bit, aren't we, for air quality today? All this sort of telecommuting and teleconferencing and Zooming. I haven't had to invite you to the studio or ask you to, get on your bike to come and speak to me. But one of the things, again, during lockdown with all the cycle lanes, I've been quite surprised how little people have been using them. Is there a reason behind that, and how could we encourage more people to get on their bikes?
I'm always spending my time trying to encourage people to get on their bikes. And for me, the biggest part of people making that change is normally confidence. it's just getting comfortable with making those short journeys, feeling comfortable with your bike, how it works. I know that sounds very obvious, but some people do get nervous. And I think if you live in an area that has quite high traffic, then being able to feel comfortable negotiating the route you're taking is important. So practice, confidence building, and just, I don't know, making a plan and trying to stick to it, like a training plan.
Yeah. Claire, with your young daughter, I think you said, how can we teach the younger generation? In fact, there's a lot coming from the younger generations now, aren't they? They're very concerned about air quality, air pollution, and environmental issues. How would you teach her to sort of take this route about looking after the air quality?
I think the younger generation have a lot to teach us, the older generation, to be honest, because it's instilled in them in schools, but also they're much more aware of what's going on in regards clean air and climate change. From my point of view, when it comes to broadcasting this type of information, it's something that should be a common language for everybody, and that's including kids. Now, a lot of kids do walk to school and they want to walk to school, and it's something which I think should be encouraged outside school time as well. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant initiative, this, and it can only add value to everybody's lives. And for kids, I think that they are aware what's going on, even though, you know, air pollution is an invisible killer. And there are millions of children who are walking to school in cities and towns where they are exposed to this environment where at times it's very, very toxic. So for them to be listening and or watching a forecast in the morning before they're going to school and see that the conditions are not so good, take an alternative route or whatever they choose to do, it's something which will only benefit everybody.
No, absolutely. I do agree. I mean, obviously, I have two young grandchildren, and, you know, I find some lovely little books and little videos on YouTube to show them about the environment. And actually, we shouldn't make a huge deal about it. It's all part and parcel of everyday life, isn't it? So I think this is it. You don't want people telling you what to do. I think it's the education process that is so, so, so important. And, you know, if we can get the weather forecasts, I mean, they have changed enormously since I was a young child. It's almost like a mini series every time a weather forecast comes on. It's brilliant. And obviously, you know, we're very much into getting children doing a lot more walking, cycling. Do you worry, Victoria, about the rise of all the e-bikes and e-scooters and things like that? Or do you think that's part and parcel?
I think actually in some ways e-bikes are good because they encourage you to take maybe a longer journey than you thought you were going to be capable of otherwise. You still have to pedal them. Well, the e-bikes that I've got, they don't power themselves. You have to pedal and they just give you a little boost. So it kind of, if your journey is a little bit longer than you think you're capable of, it will still encourage you to get out there and give it a go. So I think it creates the distance you can travel. It gives you a wider area that you can travel, and I think that's a positive thing. But yeah, I think as long as you're outside and you're turning the pedals, I think that should be encouraged.
We're coming to the end of our interview. I just want to ask each of you just for one step that you think everyone should take. So Claire, would you like to give me your one little golden nugget?
Well, turning off the lights is a really important thing, not boiling your kettle so it's all full every time you just want one cup of tea. All these things conserve energy, conserve electricity, and it's our little bit that we can go towards the greater good of everybody, of using less energy, which means we're not producing that energy elsewhere.
Wonderful advice. Victoria, what about you?
I say visit your local shop and go by bike. There we are.
So we're not going to be hitching any horses up outside anymore.
I mean, that would be cool though, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just? Thank you both. It's been lovely talking to you, Claire and Victoria, today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. So there we have it. Are you picturing a greener future? Tell me, what are you doing about it? I'd love to hear. Direct message me on Instagram, Let's Talk Property, or on Facebook at Callaway Sussex, or you can get in touch via Twitter at Real Estate Het. This is Heather Hilda Darling signing off for today. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Property on Radio Reverb 97.2 FM and DAB.